State Representative Jeanine Nov23, and you're watching Chattin' with Jeanine. My guest this week is another state representative, Michael Yakubovich from Hooksett. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Jeanine.
Representative.
Thank you for having me.
How many terms have you been in now?
Second term.
It's your second term? Okay, does it seem like it's been 2 terms?
Seems much longer.
It seems much longer? I know, it seems like you've been in the House longer than that. What committees are you on?
EDNA, Executive Department and Administration. We deal with licenses, we deal with retirement fund.
Karen McGuire's your
Yes.
chairman? And who's your vice chair? Is it
Right now it's a new lady, Jennifer Rhodes.
Jennifer Rhodes, yes.
She moved
okay,
in
they
from
had a
the
shuffle. She was the clerk
Criminal
on
Justice.
Criminal Justice, and Terry Roy.
He went back to Criminal Justice.
Yeah. So I think he might be the vice chair now. So you like EDNA?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, usually it's a very boring committee. Again,
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear about licenses and the funding, the pension fund, and a few town issues. It's not as exciting as criminal justice, I believe. It's probably not as exciting as education or healthcare. But I guess I've grown. Yeah, it grew on me.
No, how did you get away with just one committee? A lot of us are doing double duty.
I don't know. I just asked for EDNA this term because I was there before. I learned, well, I know the people, I know the process, whatever I learned the previous term. The department heads that come in testify.
Right, you get used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it, so you kind of know what's going on. So it's a good, and again, it's not the most exciting committee. A lot of votes are nearly unanimous, bipartisan on many issues. But somebody's got to do it. There's a lot of work.
So having been in the House before COVID, so you know what a normal term is. You know what it's like to sit in Reps Hall and how to go up to the well and speak. And boy, what a different year it's been for us, huh?
Yeah, very crazy, very different. We've been all over the state.
Yes. Well, hopefully things will get back to normal.
Yes. Well, it's nice to get out once in a while, but yeah, I'm sure it's a huge management issue. It's a huge organizational problem because to set up just seats, not seats, or car spaces for 400 reps, set up the equipment, make sure it's all functional, that must be a nightmare.
Yes.
For the people behind the scenes. Yeah, you're probably behind the scenes there a lot. Just set up the stage, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, I don't. No.
You don't work
No,
with
the staff-
you don't
staff
help
does
that much. Okay, but I'm sure many more people got involved, and it's so much hassle now.
And you're a good Liberty rep as well.
Yeah, people say so.
Yeah. And so you're also involved with putting together workshops for the reps. I've gone to a couple of the workshops talking about different issues, healthcare, education, energy.
It's kind of was spontaneous, I guess. I figured somehow this summer when we were at the YAL conference, there were so many different.
YAL is Young Americans for Liberty.
Yes.
But we're not young. I'm not young, but so they call us the Hazlitt
They
Coalition.
like us.
Yeah. And then Hazlitt is an economist. So I have
Yes.
a book. I saw a book and I'm like, oh, that's where that name comes from.
Oh yeah. Economics is a huge underpinning for liberty. I mean, if you don't follow market economies, if you don't follow free market, you don't really have freedom. You don't have liberty, and you have.
Oh, that reminds me.
But yeah, but let me go to the committee.
I just wanted to read you something from here. I think you'll agree with this statement. Politics can be summed up as a contest between those seeking control over society and those seeking freedom from society's control.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
It's a good statement.
We like people's representatives are on the front line of this. A good man, a very knowledgeable man, once told the folks that were talking politics. He said that you read about politics, you think about politics, but the way the politics works, that government works, is a little different from when most people think. It's the bureaucracy and the entrenched interests, whatever it is, federal level, even municipal, they're working kind of for themselves, kind of against the people, and we are, like representatives, stand between the people and the bureaucracies, and we're kind of trying to fend off the bureaucracies from doing whatever they want to do without the people's control.
Now, the viewers have probably noticed you have an accent.
Yeah.
So where are you from originally?
The Soviet Union. Small, one of the 15 republics, Belarus. That's where I'm from. It's been in the news lately. No.
Isn't it?
No. It's a couple thousand miles away.
Okay. Well, I was looking at the map, and I'm like, and I saw Belarus, and
if you zoom out.
Okay.
Maybe.
We'll just scratch that little blonde moment there. So I remember having a conversation with you, growing up in the Soviet Union. You told me that you would hear like America's bad, you don't want to go there, but then you'd see pictures of the homeless people in America wearing Levi's, playing Blue Jays. It's like, well, you didn't have that there, so this country that's so bad, but yet the poorest, they're supposedly poorest of the poor, have better clothes than you have.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Soviet Union, the birthplace of socialism, of the planned economy, of non-market economy, and we lived through all of that for generations. Because I just looked back and I realized that my grandparents were born under Soviet rule, Soviet regime. 1917 is where the Bolsheviks came to power. Yes. Ever since then, we never lived. 3 generations of us at least, and I'm the 3rd generation, I guess, and then my kids grew up here, born here. But 3 generations of people never knew freedom. They never knew free market. They never knew anything outside of the walls they were locked into.
What about religion?
No, all eradicated. The Bolsheviks, well, it depends on how you look at it, but everything was eradicated. Churches were blown up. Just like what you see with Taliban, actually, these days, because they blow up monuments, right? Mm-hmm. Going back centuries
we have
in their countries.
Taking down monuments here.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me sick.
Yeah, that too,
it's like good or bad, you have to remember your history.
Yeah, but all eradicated, churches destroyed. Even, I think they attempted, the one on the Red Square in Moscow, there's a church still there, St. Basil's, I guess it's called in English, but that one was under attack for a long time, but it is still there. That's like one of the last ones. So any religion had, all eradicated, and the state replaced God. We all worshiped the state because we were told that without the state we are nothing. We would have nothing. We would be nowhere. And then...
So you never heard anybody talk about God growing up?
No. Well, you got to realize, Jeanine, again, I'm the 3rd generation of people born under oppression. So my parents were born in the 40s, early 40s, late 30s, early 40s. My grandparents were born right after or in between the Bolsheviks coming to power. So anything that was natural to humans, to people, like freedom and maybe religion and any inclinations were pretty much gone by the time I was born in the 70s. Into it. So it's generational oppression. It's like...
I just remembered this book that I read. I think it was called The Rehabilitation of Cosmonaut Grigory. It was a Soviet astronaut, and he had trouble up in space, and they could have died. And he remembered his grandmother talking about Jesus and God, and so he gave it a try. What did he have to lose? So he prayed, and they survived. And when he came down, this Soviet astronaut boldly walked into a church, and he knelt down and said, "Thank you, boy." It was like, oh, that was a good story.
But yeah, memories like that, they didn't exist in my time. So he probably was born before me, but yeah, lived through it.
I know another former Soviet state, Georgia. I went there and I got to go to their parliament and I talked to them and I noticed like all these icons around this Soviet-built parliament. And there's icons everywhere. St. George, he's big there. St. Nino, and I was just amazed that 70 years of Soviet rule, and they did not take away those people's tradition or their religion. They still.
It all came back strongly right after the fall, dissolution of the Soviet Union. It came back. A lot of people went to church. A lot of people brought back what they had. My grandma had little icons. I don't know the real or what they were, but she never spoke about them. She just had them in the.
Probably afraid, yeah.
Well, she had them out with I guess the China.
In the China cabinet. Did you ever see the movie White Knights?
Yeah, Baryshnikov.
Yeah, with
Oh,
Baryshnikov,
wow,
yeah.
yeah. What a great movie.
Yeah, that's a good one. I recommend seeing that movie if you haven't ever watched it.
Actually, what happened to him, Erie just happened over the last year. The plane was taken down, plane flying over Belarus.
Oh, okay.
Where I'm from. Remember, so what happened in the movie?
Gregory Hines was in the movie as well.
Yes, he was another.
Did he?
No, he was his friend.
He was in Russia too, wasn't he? It's been, gosh, that was a long time ago.
He was
I'm
a
gonna
dancer,
have to watch
right?
it again. Yes.
He was also a dancer. So.
And they tried to escape.
Right, but Baryshnikov initially, the way he escaped the ballet, I guess, Soviet ballet that gave shows outside of the Soviet Union, the Iron Curtain. Within the Soviet Union, nobody could really go anywhere. Even wherever you were born, it is kind of where you were staying. If you're born in the village, you're kind of stuck in the village. If you're born in the city, maybe at some point, a couple decades later, you may get an apartment of your own for your own family. So you couldn't really move anywhere. And obviously, going outside the country, you couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't even visit the Eastern Bloc countries because that was outside the border. So to get permission to go there was very difficult. Not many people did it.
So how did you get out?
Let me just go back to Baryshnikov for a moment. Yes. So yeah, with Baryshnikov, so he escaped while on a tour abroad of the Russian ballet, and then in the movie he was flying over Siberia someplace, and their plane malfunctioned, so they had to land in Russia, and then they grabbed him. Mm-hmm. So back this summer, I think there was a plane flying over Belarus from Greece to Ireland or from Greece to Lithuania or something like that, and they forced it to land, and they picked off a few people off of it, a blogger that was vocal against the Belarusian government and his girlfriend and a couple more people. So that was kind of similar to what happened in the movie. So people who escape those oppressive regimes really don't want to go back. So they try to stay out of the airspace and they try to stay out of land space and really don't want to go back, but it sometimes happens that they're recaptured.
And when they do escape, they come here. But if this country falls to communism, then there's nowhere else to go and we're all doomed.
Right. Like most of the Western world now, because of COVID, I guess it's a pretense for oppression. Australia is the most horrible place, it seems like, out of westernized world. Just yesterday I read that they're actually coming in with army troops and taking people who were exposed to COVID, infected, and those who were exposed to them, and moving them to camps.
Oh God, it's already starting.
It's yeah, even if, right, like you were in contact with somebody, you're going too. So I don't understand that. It's horrible. Where does it stop?
Very frightening, this world we live in.
Yeah, so my dad is Jewish, so there was an agreement. Well, Jews had extra attention within, the Tsar Russia. There was oppression, anti-Semitism at that level, and then in the Soviet times there was also anti-Semitism all throughout. Pretty much, I think Stalin brought it around because some of his enemies were Jewish. Trotsky, I think, Leon Trotsky, who died in South America, Bolshevik, but Jewish. So he oppressed a lot of people. He oppressed the Chechens, for example. He oppressed social groups of people, farmers who had land. They were moved to Siberia, families prosecuted, things like that. And then he turned his attention to Jews in the late 40s. Because I think his claim was that the Jewish doctors were killing via medicine, killing the Soviet leaders. And then, he came up with something called the doctor's plot, where he would expose all the doctors that were working, sabotaging the health of the Soviet leaders behind the scenes in the 50s, early 50s. And he was planning on moving all the Jews out someplace, I don't know where. Probably Siberia again, but then he died, and that overt anti-Semitism went away in Russia. But all throughout pretty much my life, and short life under the Soviet rule, 18 years or so, I was reminded that I'm Jewish. In the class journal, it was listed. My nationality was listed, so kids could look it up.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's nationality was listed. All the internal passports contained it, or its race. I don't know what it's race, I guess. I knew that I was restricted from entering colleges. There were only a few professions we could go into. Jobs were restricted, so things like that. So it was not overt anti-Semitism, but covert. And some of the Jewish groups here in America worked out an agreement to let people emigrate, to get out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jason Vanek agreement, it was called, back in the 70s, late 70s.
I'll have to look that up.
So so they opened up the Iron Curtain for that in the 80s.
So wow.
So that's how we got out.
What would your grandmother say? Here you grew up oppressed and came to America, and now you're a lawmaker and a good liberty rep at that.
Well, that's being oppressed again, or not myself so much, but my kids. That's my most present fear right now.
Were your kids born here?
Yeah. So So they are the first generation who grew up under freedom. Me, my parents, and my grandparents. We knew nothing else other than the oppression. The state was everything. The state was God. The state gave you a place to live. The state gave you work. The state told you where to go. Yes.
Total government control. They take everything, and everything's free. But when everything's free, what do you get? You get nothing. It's just everything's to the lowest common denominator, and everybody's poor, and the ruling class is still going to rule. And now it's just, it just seems like there's a movement to go back to that. Have the ruling class, and they have everything, and they're still going to fly planes, and they're going to have plenty of heat, and the rest of us are going to sit in the dark and freeze to death because we don't have enough power, because they don't want us to be able to heat our homes unless we're using the unreliables. The sun has to be shining or the wind blowing in order to get any energy.
It's crazy what they're doing, and they will be right. So leaders always can afford, or they have the best life ever. Mm-hmm. It is the middle class and the poor that can't access anything.
Have you seen the movie Dr. Zhivago?
I read the book.
I read the book too. Yeah. I think I also saw the movie. And then there's another one. It's also about the Russian Revolution called The Highest Virtue. I'll write it down for you. The Highest Virtue. That was a very good book. And boy, I read that vicariously. November during I remember it was 1986 November, and it was just couldn't get warm reading that book.
Going back to the energy, so Michael Moore, right, the socialist Michael Moore.
Oh yeah, Michael. This was Patrick Moore.
No, Michael Moore.
Yeah, I know who he is.
He's got very pretty bad views, but one thing he got right, he produced a movie called The Planet of the Humans, like in the last year or two, and there he calls out all these green energy profiteers, all these green energy scammers. He looked into it. He actually sent crews out to Africa. He went around the world and he collected evidence saying that wind and solar, it's a scam. People are just getting fat on it. People are raising the earth. They are destroying the planet to just be able to build those.
There might be a chapter on him in this book. I brought home a big stack of books from the energy conference I went to in October. And then there was in one of those books, it's not this one, there's a chapter on Michael Moore talking about that movie.
Yes.
And I read all the books except for this one.
So he looked into it. So technologically, it makes no sense because to build a turbine, one of those huge turbines, you need so many materials, and
to be able fossil fuels to be able to build those things, to extract the minerals and the rare earth metals, not just for like turbines, but for everything. Everything. What is it? I have it in my notes.
He shows it. Lithium mines in Africa. Little kids are being enslaved, kind of, to work on cobalt, to dig it all up, and you need huge machinery, and machinery runs on what?
Right, on fossil fuels. I have that all in here. These are my notes. Just green energy help. And there's over 6,000 products that are manufactured from petroleum derivatives. And these products did not exist before 1900. Why do they exist now? Because we had energy to produce them. Imagine if we didn't, we wouldn't have cell phones.
Well,
I mean, that's about everything. Everything has plastics in it, and
we would
products.
go back. Well, it'll kind of look like the Soviet Union, because where you wouldn't have, not every year you would get new pants, shoes. You may come by some time and find some shoes, but the elites had everything. So they're kind of bringing us back to that, because not everybody can afford gasoline at $4 a gallon, but the elites can fly the private jets, no problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can afford the gala tickets for 30,000, but the elites have no issue to enter that party. So they're bringing us back to they will have everything, and we will not have anything. We'll have nothing.
So the rich will get richer, and the middle class will disappear, and we'll all be poor.
We're kind of going that way with the inflation, right? Wide inflation, they sometimes call it. But they have access to unlimited trillions. We got to work for it.
Right.
Nobody's giving me $1. Nobody prints $1 for me. But they can print anything they want for themselves and the connected interest and the cronies. So that system, that setup is very unfair.
So you believe in the free market?
Oh,
it
100%.
Works. The free market works. You have competition, and then it's all better for the consumer.
That's right.
When there's no choices.
In the Soviet Union, everything was mandated by the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy would figure out how many, tractors or how many rolls of toilet paper were needed for the country, and they would always get it wrong. Mm-hmm. Even if they tried their hardest, they couldn't, because it's a localized issue, right? Everybody got to be able to kind of bet on it, or risk their profit, risk their time, and produce what they think is right, and then the market will tell you if you're correct. But there was no market. There was no. That was called non-market economy, where it is not the market that decide what the consumers needed. It was central planners throughout the land that decided this is what we're going to need for next year, for the next 5, and this is what we were going to work on. So like here, I brought this pocket knife right here,
yes.
right? This is from the old country, and it's a curious locking mechanism. But the most important thing on it is the price right here. See this, the 2 rubles?
Oh, 2 rubles, yeah,
This
I see
PR.
that.
The price was predetermined before the knife was produced. It was part of the mold at the factory, and this is the price you're going to sell it for throughout the land. And you cannot deviate from it, because that's against the law.
So there's no private businesses then in the communist country?
No.
The government controls and owns everything, including your lives?
Yes.
I remember talking with the librarian at my high school. She escaped from Cuba. And she told me that they take your children away when they're this big, and they raise them to be communists, and they're no longer your children. And that's so wrong. And it's like, how do you get the message across to people? Well, some people know, and others don't.
They're part of the regime. Yeah. Right. To get anywhere in life, you would want to join the party, because that's the only way. That's the only move, right?
And you're all cogs in the wheel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. From cradle to grave, pretty much from middle school, maybe earlier, even younger. We had a portrait of Lenin, Vladimir Lenin, when he was a kid. So little kids would wear his portrait on their lapel.
Really?
Yeah, from first grade, pretty much, in school, and we would praise Lenin.
I have a nice
he gave
Ronald
us this.
Reagan button that I wear, but he's like kind of a symbol of the free world.
Did you have a choice to wear him or not?
I had a choice. Yeah.
Oh, there
See,
you
I
go.
wear it on February 6th, his birthday, and I have a party every year. So
that's different.
The jelly beans that you see in my office, those are for Ronald Reagan.
Okay. Yeah. In the winter, yeah. Okay. Yeah, but so we were indoctrinated into this religion, where we would have to study the works of Lenin and Marx. Not Stalin in our time, but I'm sure previous generations would have to study works of Stalin. We would have to study works of whatever the current leader was. And during my growing up, they kind of died off real quick. So there was Andropov, who was the KGB head. He was there for a couple of years. Chernenko was there for a couple of years. Brezhnev before him. So we would have to study the works of the current leader, plus the Lenin and Marx, all throughout school and colleges and everywhere. And that was our Bible, I would say. And it was, we didn't have a choice. And we had to believe in it. We had to analyze the works, the letters, the revolutionary texts, everything. And little kids, I believed what I was reading. I was given to it. Nobody told me otherwise. I would read it and I would think about it and I would believe that what I read was correct, that we have this great, bright future ahead of us. I don't know. It was not called heaven or anything afterlife, but it was said that in the future we're going to have communism through all these socialists, sacrifices, and yes, we have shortages, starvation, we have hard labor, but at the end of it, we're going to achieve communism, and everybody will be prosperous, and everybody will have a great life. And I believed it, and my parents wouldn't tell me otherwise because they'd be in so much trouble.
Right, they disappear.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. And then by the time people reached adulthood, I'm sure they knew it was all crap. But everybody had to pretend to still believe in all this. And it was madness, it was collective madness. I don't know what it was. It was insanity, because you had to, and you still had to do all the motions. You had to go and talk about them. You would have to talk about socialism, how great it is. But everybody by adulthood, I'm sure, knew it was all lies. So it's very unnatural when you have a full country full of liars lying to each other. Just
well, maybe
screws with your
that
head.
can happen here, because it feels like we're being steered down a path that's very dangerous. But now maybe there is hope at the end of the tunnel, because maybe as people realize that that there's no sunshine down the road, it's tyranny.
This is now. Our life needs to get better now. Our life needs to be free. We should be free from oppression, and we should think about what we're told. So, yeah, okay. Propaganda was a huge part of life.
Yes. Yeah, Pravda.
Pravda. Yeah.
Some people don't know what that means. I always say, Pravda. And then I get a blank stare. I'm like, Pravda? You don't know Pravda.
Newspaper.
Pravda was the name of the news source, the one only news source in the Soviet Union. So whatever Pravda said, you're supposed to believe.
There was nothing else.
And that's what I call the mainstream media, Pravda.
It shapes, it shapes the, what the public thinks greatly. So
you're not going to believe this, but we only have a minute left.
All
It
right,
just
all right.
it went by, but if you have time and if the cameraman has time, we could keep talking on the second show. But
sure.
For now, I'll say thank you. Thank you for coming to Merrimack.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for watching, and I might see you in a few minutes. So stay tuned.